Peter Muruthi is checking out his ticket at the Nairobi terminus. He is en route to Mombasa to check on his business.
I'm like using the public transport, that is the bus and the stuff. This is one of the most convenient way of traveling, especially when you're doing long distance. And second thing, it's so organized. The way the railways do operate, you feel like you are really traveling. It's not the case whereby you go take a matatu, which is so, there's so much disorganized and the stuff.
What I want to say is that I've never been on a train before. The one who is taking me to Mombasa said SGR is the most convenient. I have seen it is a good thing. There is no squeezing against one another or stress because of traffic jams. The other good thing is that there are no accidents compared to the road. I am proud of our government. Despite having SGR loans, our money is not lost. We can move easily. Both old and young people are happy.
The standard gauge railway in Kenya is the most expensive infrastructural project the country has done since independence. The debate on whether the $3.6 billion project is worth its money and impact is heated, with economists and environmentalists pulling at both ends. Leonard Tonui is the principal engineer at the Kenya Railway Service.
Container train carries 56 wagons. That is 108, actually 54 wagons, 108 TEUs, containers. Those would be how many trucks? Hundreds of them in a day. And we are doing an average of minimum 7 container trains in a day. So 700 plus TEUs in a day. Those are hundreds of lorries which are being removed from the, and the benefit for the transporters, the owners of the goods that are being transported. Those containers are able to arrive in Nairobi within a day. Usually not more than 10 hours they are in Nairobi. That saves them time and also other related costs.
The SGR has replaced over 1,500 trucks so far and transported over 2.5 million passengers since completion.
I've heard of that notion that the train business, basically SGR, has killed the trucking business. But one fact that we should know that is that the train can only, in its full capacity, can only transport 40% of the cargo which is arriving at the port of Mombasa. So there is still more business. It's just a matter of the road transport businesses and the truckers becoming more innovative and engaging that business. And one key important thing to note is the SGR and basically the train cannot engage in last mile connectivity. For the last mile connectivity to happen, the road together with the train have to complement each other.
Ndugu yangu SGR ilituharibia kazi.
SGR has really messed our jobs. At the moment, it carries 200 containers, translating to 200 truck drivers losing their jobs.
Ni madereva 200 wamekosa kazi.
Trip ni moja peke yake.
Trip is only once. I really don't know if I will get a cargo. Back in the days, there was always cargo on standby, but now I will have to wait maybe a week, 2 weeks before I get cargo. Life is really hard. We are thinking of traveling abroad to work there.
Maisha imekuwa ngumu sana, hata tunafikiria kutoka nchi twende ugaibuni kufanya kazi.
According to the Transport Sector Climate Change Report of 2020, Kenya emits 11.25 metric ton carbon dioxide against an emission target of 3.46 metric ton carbon dioxide by 2030. The World Health Organization says automobile pollution causes at least 5,000 deaths per year in Kenya. Trackers have a different opinion on SGR reducing carbon emissions.
On pollution, I disagree because whether it is at night or day, emission is the same. SGR has not helped in reducing pollution. What it has done is to create unemployment.
SGR is a green transport, it's low carbon, with much less greenhouse gases. It has reduced the number of vehicles on the road itself, and that is again adding to more reduction of greenhouse gases.
The railway has halved the time spent traveling from Mombasa to Nairobi from 8 hours by road to 4 hours. This has helped boost local tourism to the coastal city. Mash Poa Bus Company has been in operation for more than 2 decades. Farouk Sahid is a transport manager and has been with the company for years.
The impact is too high. As we can see now, we used to have about 3-4 buses a day. Now we are just sending about 2 buses. Compared to the transport sector, SGR, they are sending almost those cabins, about 13-14 cabins, which consist of about, let's say, 1,000 passengers. So these small interstate stopovers, they've cost us a lot also with the SGR.
While the SGR has negatively impacted on some businesses, it has brought growth to some towns along the line. Voi Town is a major stopover for tourists heading to Tsavo East and to Tsavo West National Parks, and home to the remaining tuskers in the world. Mohanjit is a tourism expert with Game Watchers. To him, SGR has been a game changer in the tourism industry.
And now with the SGR, as tourism players, we're actually very happy to have it. It's something that has really opened up domestic tourism. We've seen a lot of especially at the coast, that are doing extremely well from it. It offers a very efficient service, a very affordable service, clean and with good standards. So it's very important to the tourism industry.
Richard Mola is the founder of Tsavo Trust. They operate within Tsavo East and West. Richard works hand in hand with Kenya Wildlife Service to protect the big tuskers. These are elephants with tusks touching the ground.
When you see a dead elephant and you think its face has been hacked off just to cut out those teeth, those tusks, for what?
Peter takes a detour to Tsavo East Park together with Tsavo Trust team. His namesake Peter shares his opinion on development and conservation.
So I totally agree, because as a country we must develop, but as we develop, let's have a sustainable development whereby we develop with conservation in mind.
This water has been channeled to this tunnel, and now it goes down, and you have seen now it has developed a lot of bigger deep gullies along these individual chambers. So there is a very big negative impact on those sides, because the land has been degraded. People are now losing their land because of those deep gullies. The accessibility of their livestock and even them themselves is very much becoming a problem.
The SGR passes through game reserves and parks in Kenya. Vegetation clearance, noise and air pollution has had a significant impact on the flora and fauna. Here in Tsavo, they had to construct underpasses for animal crossings. Controversially, the railway line passed through the Nairobi National Park, encroaching 87.29 hectares of the park. The habitat is an important breeding center for critically endangered black rhinos. Tobias is an environment expert who has been studying impact of major developments along the parks.
The construction of the SGR and the adjoining roads then have got wide-ranging impacts on both the species as well as the habitats that they need to use within those conservation areas. So for example, in the Voi area where it bisects the Tsavo East and Tsavo West, What it has done is to impede the movement of wildlife between the two areas. With specific reference to the Nairobi National Park, we are seeing a situation where wildlife is migrating back into community areas. They then engage in human-wildlife conflict. So where some of these landscapes have been disturbed, particularly to get soil for the SGR, but also, when soil is brought in, it comes in with some plant species that are not native to these areas. So we are losing critical habitat for wildlife who then cannot make use of this plant that has emerged.
The SGR is one of the most expensive projects Kenya has undertaken since independence. The $3.6 billion project was debt-financed with China Exim Bank funding 90% and the Kenyan government funding 10%. At $5.6 million per kilometer, the cost was 3 times the international standard and 4 times the initial estimate.
I'd like to encourage Kenyans to give SGR time, and not only 3 years, 4 years. Let's give it a long period of time, because economic investment projects are normally viewed over a long period of time so that you can measure the costs and the benefits. And the benefits automatically will outweigh the costs. We can be rest assured that with this development, SGR will become profitable in the long run. It will improve the economy in terms of increasing trade, that is, trade within the country.
SGR has been making huge losses since it started, with a combined operating loss of $200 million. This has led many to question the commercial viability of the project and, most importantly, the Sino-African trade relations.
What the Chinese want is business. And they want to capture as much business in Africa as possible. And they want to make sure that they do trade with us, they give us loans to build our roads, our railways, to develop our water supplies, to develop our hydropower and so on, to make us sustainable in terms of infrastructure. Once you develop infrastructure, then you are on the path to development.
The railway project is a major transport corridor to Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda and the DRC Congo. It costs an average of $1,200 to transport via the SGR as compared to $850 by road.
You'll be surprised to learn that the cost of transporting goods is about 40% of total charges or total cost of the cargo. That means our production is not competitive because our goods are always expensive, and it's because of transport aspect. Having cheaper transport like the railway is what is very important for reducing that kind of cost and making our goods much cheaper and even more affordable to local people and also competitive in the world market.
In Mombasa, Peter sees his cargo arrival via the ship. He then takes time off his busy schedule to tour around Mombasa and enjoy its fine white sand and the clear turquoise blue waters of the Indian Ocean. And along the beach, he meets other local tourists.
The feeling is awesome, the weather is very fine. It's a beautiful place. I've never been here before. I travel using the SGR from the Nairobi terminus to the Mombasa terminus, and it was such a very nice experience.
With just a few years of SGR traversing through Kenya and years shy to 2030 carbon emission target, the country stands to gain much with the environmental friendly mode of transport and brighter future to the young generation.